Get ready to master your life and achieve your dreams with Lifestyle Mastery, the show that will transform the way you think about personal development, business, and entrepreneurship, and explores the fascinating world of self-improvement with the guidance of the renowned expert, Dr. Sheila Smith. From mastering your mindset to building a successful business, Dr. Smith and her guests will inspire, educate, and empower you to live your best life.
Hello, welcome to Lifestyle Mastery. My name is Dr. Sheila Smith, and today I have a wonderful guest that is going to help us with some relationship matters. Let me tell you, I heard this gentleman, let me take my glasses off for this because it is so good. I heard this gentleman on this social media app called Owl, and he blessed my soul with some relationship issues that not only was I dealing with, but a lot of my friends were. And when I heard that, I said to myself, everyone needs to hear this. So I want to welcome Brian Strubhar. He is our relationship expert. And let me tell you a little more things about him because he has such a wealth of knowledge. So Brian is a business coach, strategist, relationship coach. That's what we're going to focus on today. We'll have him on another time for all of the other stuff. Author, speaker, and so much more. Brian has a website, and it's called www.nextstepmindset.com. Brian has also written so many books, and I know the titles are going to grab you. So you just give me a second, just humor me. Give me a second to just say some of these titles. The Ripple Effect Mindset, The Student Mindset, The Recycling Failures to Power Success, True Emotional Nudity, my. That one right there. That one right there. Overcoming the Fear of Public Speaking, Escaping Religion Prison, Keys to Unlocking Communication, Grooming and Grilling, Keys to Everlasting Love, Stake for Your Soul, that one's coming soon, and A to Z Life Manual. My goodness, I am so excited. I just want to bring to you right now our relationship matters coach, Brian Strubhar. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sheila. It's awesome to be on here with you. It's so cool to get to participate in your show. This is so cool. And you're so right with Lifestyle Matters because your life is really what it's all about. It's not about making money, and success is not a dollar figure. So I think you nailed it. Even with just the name of your show is awesome.
You know, I thank you for that so much because a lot of times people don't deal with, they want to jump into business, but they haven't even dealt with the matters at home, the matters of the heart. We are going out and doing business ventures, but we're still in pain at home. So one of the things that I was talking to you briefly on the Owl app, and I see your shirt, and we got to dive into that. Don't let us forget that, the Owl app. When I was talking to you on the Owl app, you touched on something about relationships when the woman or the man is an entrepreneur, but the other spouse is a 9-to-5er, and that the conflict we deal with sometimes is a little unbearable. Can you touch on that?
Sure. You know, that's something I see a lot of, especially in this day and age, in the gig economy we live in. You know, especially women, they want to do something more. They want to do something they're passionate about, they care about, they enjoy. They may not enjoy, or they're tired of their 9-to-5 job. In many cases, and there's so many different reasons we could go into, but a lot of men especially don't fully support, even though they may say they support, they don't act like they support the wife, quote unquote, going on her own, starting her own business, her own entrepreneurial journey. And there's a number of reasons we could talk about, you know, why they don't want them to is often because they're jealous. You know, they want to be the successful breadwinner. They want to have all the praise, so to speak. They don't want their wife to be more successful than they are. So that often comes out of a pride or a jealousy, even an envy of the talents that their wife has, because a lot of women are much better multitaskers than men are. Men can do really well at one thing, but the minute you introduce a second thing or a distraction of some kind, you might as well just count them out on the whole thing, because most men can't do two things at once. That's why a lot of men are great chefs or great pianists, for example, or musicians, because they focus on one thing. But the minute you get them doing other things, they can't do other things.
Wow.
So I think that's kind of in a nutshell a little bit about that. And there's a lot of ways, a woman could do that, though it's tough to go on your own and start that entrepreneurial journey without the support or the encouragement of a spouse. I'm sure you probably know, especially from the people you've helped and talked with, that's a tough journey, because you need that support. You need someone there in your corner when you're having a rough moment or a long night, that they're not going, come on, just give it up already. Because guess what?
Yes.
We all have long nights. We all have things we're trying to figure out. We're trying to finish something, and it goes longer, takes longer. We run into hiccups or things happen that we didn't expect. That's part of the entrepreneurial journey. It's a learning, and it takes time. And most people who have the 9-to-5 job mentality, they don't understand all the behind the scenes, the late nights, all the commitment that it takes. They don't understand how long it often takes to start a business. And if you think about, just take Google, for example, how many years did it take before Google became a household name? Most people don't realize it was over 6 years, if I remember correctly. How many people can survive, so to speak, for 6 years, especially without encouragement or some kind of a support system? Most people can't make it 6 months or even 6 weeks. Most people give up after 6 or 8 hours of no support. So you just have to think about, how crucial is it? If your husband absolutely refuses to support you and your journey, where you're going or where you feel God wants you to go, then I think you may need to find other people to help support you. Don't rely on your husband for something that he cannot provide, for whatever reason.
I'm just shaking my head over here, because I just know in my heart this is going to help so many people. And, even after I got off with you that day on the app, I felt like a lifting of peace, because, and it's not like I didn't know that answer, but to hear it validated
Correct.
from a man.
Well, let me give you another piece that goes along with that. Just because your spouse doesn't support you doesn't mean you're doing something wrong or that you shouldn't do it. And it certainly doesn't mean you're broke or incompetent. What it means is he doesn't understand it. God may not have given him the same talents or the same vision that he gave you. Therefore, you can't expect him, so to speak, to have the grace for the trials you're going to face, because he wasn't given that vision. He hasn't committed himself. And the biggest key to success when you start your own entrepreneurial journey is to never, ever give up. And one of the biggest lessons my dad taught me as a young boy, or even as a teenager in many cases, as I started, expanding my entrepreneurial journey, he taught me that there's 2 ways to fail. You can either try and fail and keep going, obviously, or you cannot try and fail. He often used it, the shoot or don't shoot option. Are you going to take your shot, or are you just going to hold it and wish you would have at least tried? Because you're going to have regrets if you never tried it. You're always going to have those, what ifs I would have. What if I would have done my best? What if I would have been wildly successful? So there's just so many different things to think about. Would you rather suffer from regret, wishing you would have tried, or would you rather suffer from the regret of, okay, I failed that attempt, let me try again?
And I'm so stubborn that I refuse not to win. And a lot of times I refuse. I've always been that way my whole life. And I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to, do all of those things. I'm going to just barrel through and push through.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to give the people that are listening, that same stick to itiveness, that same fortitude. I want you, no matter what, listen to the gems in this, really listen, take notes, pray, meditate on it, because this is going to really help you to get to the next level. And what made you go into this relationship space?
Before I even go there, let me share one other gem before we leave that other subject, because so many women are probably sitting there going, yeah, that's me. I feel down. I feel discouraged. My husband won't support me. Maybe I feel broke or whatever else. But yet so many times they've never asked their husband, what do you need from me right now? Listen to him, hear what he has to say, because men are generally pretty simple. We call it SEX, simple. So it's pretty simple to please most men. However, dare them after they answer, say, I dare you to ask me the same question. Because now when they ask you, what do you need right now? You can say, I really need your belief in me, your support, your encouragement. And so offer them some of what they need, if that's what they need, or whatever they need. Maybe they simply need, a day at the lake. I don't know what they need. Maybe they need a day at the golf course, whatever they need. Maybe they need a night out with their buddies. Say, I'll tell you what, I will gladly trade you that for what I feel I need right now. There's so many ways you could do that. And what got me into the relationship space was the struggle my wife and I were in. You see, we were basically on the rocks ourselves. When we hit about the 4.5, 5 year mark in our marriage, we felt like it would be easier to give up than it would to try to fix the mess we were in. However, one of the things I found was it's easier to fix something that's tangled than it is to start from scratch.
Yes.
In many cases. Now, I will also often use the term, it's easier to give birth than it is to raise the dead. So if your husband has not been supporting you, find a way to get him to support you. Don't try to get him to fix what he's not doing. Try to get him to do something new. Maybe he's never done that. A birth is something new. It's something inventive. Find a way to get him to support you. Maybe even ask him, what could I do that you could support me in?
Oh, that's so good.
Because there has got to be something that he believes you are capable of. And trust me, your husband wants you happy. Because there's an old saying, as you probably know, happy wife, happy life.
That's right.
But I like the better. It's happy spouse, happy house.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah, that's
yeah,
even
because if you make both spouses
that.
are happy, you've got a very happy family. So we try to help couples. My wife and I now have been helping couples for over 15 years. And one of the interesting things is so many couples just strive to survive.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all they do. They just want to get by. They just want to get through. They just want to get past. We just want to make it. No. Why don't you want to thrive? Why wouldn't you want to do it in style, so to speak? If you're going on a trip, you don't want to get there in a jalopy, or you don't want to ride a bicycle or walk. You want to get there in a Cadillac, so to speak. Why wouldn't you go in style? Why wouldn't you go in your own Learjet or your own helicopter instead of, a bicycle? So you can do it in whatever style you want. You just have to pick your own vehicle and say, that's the way I want to go out.
I love that. I love that. And, I'm so glad you were transparent about your situation, because I was transparent about mine. And the show is all about real solutions, right? And so, let me just hit a Bible verse for a second. Revelations 12:11 says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Absolutely.
If we sat here looking and acting as if we didn't go through it, how would we be qualified to help if we don't know and we weren't touched by the feelings of your infirmities and the way that you felt? This is the reason why I wanted Brian to talk, because I knew what he had gone through, and I knew that he could help all of us reach that next level of assisting us in helping our spouse to help us. And that is so.
One of the things that totally changed our lives, when we had hit about 4.5, 5 years in our marriage, we went to a marriage conference. Of course, I went basically leaving black marks in the parking lot. I didn't want to go. I didn't think it would fix us. What I didn't realize was they would introduce me to a new mindset of working on, oneness and striving for oneness and striving to thrive instead of just striving to survive. And I didn't realize the difference. However, they introduced me to a lot of new resources and cool things that could help us. And one of the biggest takeaways that we learned wasn't even the first year. We went to several different marriage conferences and getaways and retreats and all different types of things, just trying to fix us, because we both had so many areas of pride and selfishness and different things that we needed to work on, that we felt like we just needed more. It made us hungry, like, give us more, give us more. It's like when you first feed a beggar, they're starving. They'll just eat anything in sight.
Yeah.
And so we realized that, especially with the first event, we came home with high hopes. We had all these resources. We bought books and videos and all kinds of stuff. And it was all great. We're all ready to change and be better. But the problem was we didn't apply what we had learned. And the old habits kicked in. Because guess what? We hadn't started any new habits. We didn't start praying together every day, for example, right away. It took us time to implement that. And so it takes time, but my new slogan is now application equals transformation.
Ooh.
And so if you think about it, without application, you're more or less just an educated idiot.
Yeah.
Because you know better, but you're not doing better. Then you complain about being the same as you were or getting the same results. And that's called insanity, to do the same thing and expect a different result. But yet that's what I did. I tried that and it didn't work. I still got the same darn thing. My old habits came back like they had before I went. I was like, man, I thought that thing would have left by now. I know better, right? But I'm still doing the dumb thing. So, sometimes you got to learn the hard way. Fall and trip or go back in your old rut again and go, yeah, that's the same old thing. Let's get out of there.
Exactly. I so love this. We can't hear all, like you said, we can't hear all of this information, get home and do nothing with it.
Well, you can.
And still, the insanity, the same thing. Right.
Yeah, if you want to do that, you can literally pocket it, so to speak, and put it in your mind, stash it away, put it in some drawer in the back of your mind, and you can sit on it. But it's not going to do you any good there. Knowing it and not doing it does little. Just makes you feel worse, because you should be doing it different, but you're not. Now you have regrets.
Yeah, it's just like me knowing that I need to get on that treadmill that's sitting right next to me, and I know I should.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm making a beeline down to that piece of apple pie downstairs.
Yeah. And here's one other big tip for ladies, especially if you're wanting to get started and you need support. It is a journey, no matter what you do, whether you're losing weight, it's day by day. It's discipline by discipline. It's the same thing in your marriage, in your relationship, in your support. He has to have time to grow. Give him grace to learn how to support you and to give you the support and encouragement you need. Maybe even give him ideas and say, I'm really having a tough struggle right now. I'm trying to figure this out. Are you willing and able to support me, or do I need to find someone else who I could call to see if they could support me or even give me some pointers? He's going to be happy to do all he can at that point, because he wants to be your go-to. Your man also wants to feel needed. He wants to feel like a necessity to you. He doesn't want to feel like a third wheel, so to speak, or something that you don't even need. So keep that in mind. Let him know how much you need him. That's crucial to a man. That makes them feel loved and respected, because respect and love are two different things, and God created us different. Women feel like they need love, they need protection, they need support, where men feel like they just need respect.
Can you dive even deeper into that respect thing? Because I think that we as women don't fully understand how important that really is. We hear the word,
Yeah.
we hear it, but I don't think we really internalize it enough.
And I believe you're right, because a lot of women don't understand how a man thinks. And honestly, respect to me is pretty simple. It includes little things like when he's talking, don't interrupt him. Listen to understand instead of listening to respond. Ask clarifying questions. Try to enter his world. Try to understand who he is, where he's coming from. You want to study your spouse, so to speak, more or less. They are your idol, your model, so to speak, that you want to really, really know how they're thinking and why they do things. Ask them, why did you do that? That's cool, but I'm glad you did, but why did you do it? What was your motivation? You want to understand them at their inner core. And not only that, when it comes to respect, letting the man know that you will abide by whatever his decision is. So ask him, would you be willing for me to try this? And you may have to give him a certain amount of time, for example, or you may have to do it within a budget, for example. But there are lots of different ways to say, I really want to do this. Would you allow me to? Would you support me at least for, let's just say, 6 months or a 1 year time to see how it goes and see where it's at? In 6 months or a year, you're going to know whether it's something you're still passionate about, or it may have been a door to a door that leads you into the correct calling that God created you for. So there's many, many different situations, and it's hard to know where everybody's at. Number one thing I would recommend is find somebody to speak life and encouragement and support into your life, because we all need that. And if your husband isn't right now, you may need that just to help you get that from him. Sometimes just getting an outside perspective, even if they're not a professional counselor or a coach or mentor, though I recommend a coach or mentor, I think that's a big, big difference. For the people that seek help, they get much further down the road and much quicker than those who just try to bumble along in the dark.
Love that. You've written so many books. Which book would relate to what we're talking about that you've written, and why?
In which aspect? Because there's a number of different options depending what you're looking at. So if you're looking at starting an entrepreneurial journey, I would probably recommend the Recycling Failures to Power Success book.
Related to relationships.
Correct. Relationship wise, I would recommend probably the Grooming and Grilling book, because it's not designed for women, but it's designed for men.
Okay.
And the reason is that the full title of that book is Grooming and Grilling Future Son-in-Laws. Because they think, most men at least, think they have the answers. They've been around the block. They know how to do things. And they think young guys have no clue. Therefore, I'll tell him like it is. I'll show him a thing or two. So let that pride drive him to read the book. And just say, I'm really curious to read this book. I'm not a man, but I want to understand a man's mind. And he's going to go, wait, if it explains a man, I want to understand it too. Because he wants to make sure you're not learning something that's incorrect as well. But here's the cool thing. 7 of the 8 chapters in that book are about being the proper man of God, the leader of the home that models godly leadership and servanthood versus being a head dictator. So head of the home does not mean head dictator, it means head servant. So that's huge. That's a totally different mindset and perception, so to speak, to the head of the home. The head of the home simply means you got the responsibility to lead by serving. That's your role. That's your job. And so when a man understands that, the last chapter has 100 different questions that are great questions, even for you as a couple, to just look at the question and talk about them. Before we got married, how would you have answered this question? Now that we're married, how would you answer this question? And then talk about it. And if you are having a daughter or even a son, you can use it either way for a son or daughter-in-law. But it's just great questions to figure out who this person is, what direction they're going. And so there's 100 questions. You can pick and choose A lot of them are spiritual questions. A lot of them are financial questions. So there's all different types of ways that you can now judge, is this a legitimate, genuine person, or is it just somebody who wants a one-night stand?
Ooh.
Because none of us want to set our kids up for failure or pain and suffering. And a lot of
Yeah.
times that's what it is. If this person's all about a good time and just going to a party and having fun or getting between the sheets, that's a whole different kind of person. You may not want to recommend that person or give them the thumbs up to go on a date with your daughter, for example. So that's where I think helping men to feel like they now understand what their role is helps them to step into their role. Because that's what the first 7 chapters are. And there's a lot of stuff in there that's going to help even a wife to understand the role of her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in many cases, a wife could even apologize to him and say, you know, I'm really sorry. There are areas in this book that I realized I was in essence stepping on your toes, taking your responsibilities, the things God created you for. I don't want to do that any longer. I'm going to now leave that up to you. And don't tell him what they are. He's going to read the book to figure out what his responsibilities are.
You said that you can help people rather with communication skills
Mhm.
in relationships. Can you tell me what does that look like?
Well, there's a lot of ways we help people with communication, but one of the things we help people figure out first and foremost is what are the barriers to communication? Many times it's old baggage from maybe prior relationships, the way we're brought up, differences in our, childhood, spiritual differences. There can be all kinds of things that bring barriers to communication. Once you understand those barriers, I mean, obviously, just the difference between the way men and women communicate is different. And there's a lot more to communication than people realize. It's not just audio, verbal communication. There's body language. And then, of course, there's listening. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And so both of us need to listen and try to really fully understand what the other person is saying, why they're saying it, and how they truly felt. And I think one of the biggest roles a woman can play in a man's life is helping him realize it's okay not to be okay all the time. Because one of the reasons I wrote that book on true emotional nudity is because I was raised as a man, you're always fine.
That's right.
You're not
That's right.
able to cry, show your emotions, show pain. I could smash my finger with a hammer or cut it with a saw, and yet I'm not allowed to cry. It's like, why not? It's painful. We are emotional beings too. God created us that way. And when a woman allows a man to explore his emotions without judging him for them, because that's hard, because as a woman, you want him to be like a woman. Most men don't even know they have emotions, first of all. Secondly, they don't know how to explain them because they're not a woman. So you just have to realize men don't know in many cases they even have emotions because they were often told they didn't or weren't supposed to. And then when they do realize they have them, now they don't know how to even explain them. So if you ask him, how did you feel? We joke about it. If my wife asks me, how was your day at work? I say, I don't know, it was good. I mean, it was a day. That's all that comes up in my mind. She wants to know the details. Well, who did you see? Who did you talk to? What happened? How did you feel? Did you get done with this or that? What happened throughout your day? How long did you take for lunch? How did you feel when you ate the sandwich? Did you see my love note in your lunchbox? Whatever it might be, there's all these little things she wants to know. Well, I forgot there was a love note in the lunchbox because, I got busy after lunch and I forgot all about it. So there's lots of little things that are differences in the way we communicate, different styles of communications. We joke about it that in many cases, the husband is a land the plane type person. He just wants the pertinent details, where a woman wants to enjoy the ride. She wants all the details and all the emotions that went along with it. Men don't even tie it to an emotion in most cases. So it's just understanding all those communication differences and being able to learn how to listen and ask clarifying questions and take time to understand. Let a man know you appreciate him sharing. one of the
Wow.
biggest things women miss, and you think
Wow.
about workplace um, affairs that happen. What do you think the biggest reason workplace affairs happen?
I would guess not feeling heard at home.
It's actually appreciation.
Oh, wow.
When a
Oh,
man
wow.
feels appreciated and feels respected, like, wow, you're such a smart person. I'm glad, you're here. It's good to see you. Those kinds of things will make a man feel loved and respected, because respect to a man feels like love. Whether you ever tell him I love you or not, doesn't matter. A woman could hear I love you 1,000 times a day. It never gets old. A man doesn't care about hearing I love you. He wants to hear things like, you're so smart at what you do. You can do anything. I knew you could do it. You're so strong. You're so tough. These are things that make a man feel like a man.
This is going to truly, truly, truly help a lot of people, because you tapped into some things that I know when I try to ask other men, not my husband, I'll try to
Mhm.
ask other men these questions, and they're looking at me like a deer in headlights,
Yeah.
like not, it's almost like not wanting to give away the secret sauce, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so for you to just, it's incredible. Um, are there any other tips that you would give the man as far as us women wanting to stay on our entrepreneurial journey
Mhm.
um, with the least amount of resistance?
So I would say, guys, if you're listening to this and it makes sense to you that your woman is not going to totally burn the house down, so to speak, or take you to financial ruin just because of an entrepreneurial journey, I would definitely recommend support her in it. And if you do have major concerns, potentially bring in a third party, a business coach or some kind of relationship coach or somebody to help you navigate those troubled waters. Because sometimes a man will see things that a woman never foresees. I'm not saying that there isn't things that could potentially bring, a wreck or havoc to a relationship or even a home or your financial stability. That can happen depending on what it is and what kind of financial restraints or disciplines the woman has. I have seen women spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just trying to start something that had no merit. There was no market for it. Just because you have a desire for something doesn't mean it's going to work. And so that's
Mm.
where there are cases where the man is simply trying to, in essence, share his intuition and says, I don't think this is going to work. Now, a woman is generally more in tune with her intuition than a man is, but men do have that as well. And so, therefore, they may not even be able to explain why they don't want you to do it. But sometimes asking them, could we bring in a business coach or somebody to look at the whole situation? And in many cases, it's going to help him understand it's okay. It's not going to hurt or ruin you. Or now you can put parameters in place within this budget or for this amount of time, will allow you to try it or explore it and see, can it be successful? Is it going to be worth it? Because hobbies are often totally different than a business. And so if he sees that his wife is treating her quote business as a hobby, hobbies are usually expensive. And if you don't treat a business as a business, it will often cost you as a hobby.
Wow.
But that's one of the big things. A lot of men, it's not that they hate you, it's not that they think you're broken or incapable. They simply see something that makes them unsure of whether you could do it. Maybe they simply don't understand it. Maybe you never fully explained your vision and what you want to
Mm.
do. In many cases, that's the biggest issue. And one of the things we have found is most turmoil in relationships comes from miscommunication and misunderstandings.
Yeah.
It's almost every time. Well, if I'd have known that was what you actually want to do, I could fully support that. But you never told me that.
Now, what if they told them, but they still feel you have nothing more than a hobby? What would you say to that person and I know you said earlier for them to seek out, some other support mechanisms, but that could somehow, let me say it nicely, almost cause resentment.
It can, depending on the situation.
Okay, let's speak to that.
So it depends on how strong your relationship is and how good the communication is, whether they fully understand. So asking questions like, do you understand what I'm, doing here, or what my goal is, why I'm doing it, for example, and have the husband, for example, in this case, have the husband repeat back to you why he thinks you want to go into business for yourself or go down this entrepreneurial journey. Why does he think you need to leave your job, so to speak, to do it? So in many cases, I will recommend a woman do it part-time on the side, evenings, weekends, whenever she can squeeze in a moment, until she can get the business to where it's not only in the black, but to where it shows him this is a viable business that can provide enough money to be worth the time, the aggravation, and the commitment, so to speak, because a man doesn't want his wife so wrapped up in her business that she no longer pays any attention to him. Because again, now he feels unneeded.
Can you speak?
Priorities to me is another huge part of respect. If your husband doesn't feel like your priority, he's also not going to feel respected.
Ooh, that's good.
Because
that's good.
I think that our priorities in relationships have to be correct. It needs to be God first, spouse second, family third, and business last. Your spouse should also come in front of your kids. And I get a lot of flack from that, but how long are your kids with you? 18, 20 years. Who are you left with when the kids leave? If you spend all your time with the kids and you reject your spouse during that 20 years, guess what? You're left with a stranger. You don't even know who they are in 20 years.
The Bible says leave and cleave.
Exactly.
It's
and
what it is.
one. That means
right.
You know that person inside and out. You know how they think. You know what they're going to say before they say it. You can finish their sentence. That comes from so clear communication.
I get flack for that too. I get flack for talking.
I'm glad we're on the same page there.
We're totally. That's why you got the 2 thumbs up, because yeah, that was 2 thumbs. That was 2 thumbs saying, yes, you're absolutely right. And I say the exact same thing. They're going to leave your house. They're going to go get a husband or a wife of their own. And then what do you have once you're back at the house? Now you don't even know that person. And it's a mess. So,
and another problem, when kids leave the house, let's say they do go get married and start their own family, it's no longer your place as a parent to support that kid and make them, in essence, leave their spouse. You need to now support them in their union. You need to encourage them in their relationship. Don't make them come to your house for every Christmas or Thanksgiving. Let them start their own family traditions. Obviously, they're always welcome, but you can't make everybody else fit your selfish desires.
Brian, what we say in the African American culture, or the Black culture, whatever you want to call it, I feel like throwing my shoe at you.
No.
Which means that's a good thing. When we want to throw our shoe at you, that means you are doing something so great. We got to have another show talking about how parents guilt their children into coming over and spending holidays and wanting them to come over for every little thing, to fix this and to fix that, not even caring that they got a whole spouse at home. Okay, I'm not even going to start, but we're going to have that conversation because I literally experienced that personally.
Yeah, it's common, sadly.
It made me run. It made me leave.
And it pushes your children away to where they don't even want to be around you now. They don't want to have conversations with you.
It's a turnoff.
It
total
is.
turnoff.
Yep.
And so I'm so
when
glad
someone's trying to control you, it's a turnoff. And that's another point to women. If you're trying to control your man, he doesn't feel respected.
But when they try to control us,
that's not right either.
We don't either.
No, I agree. It's neither direction. Neither should control the other. It's all about communication and a
Yes.
mutual understanding. Look for a solution that's a win-win, not a one-way win, not a win for me or a win for you, but a win for both. Because that's crucial, especially in a marriage. You're one, you're looking for an us. And you know, one of the phrases that we use when we get into a misunderstanding, we often call them moments of intense fellowship, where a lot of people call them a fight. You know, we often will remind each other, you know, you're not my enemy. We have an enemy, but you're not the enemy.
Yes.
We're in this together. We're literally, and when you're fighting, it's like you're rowing a boat two opposite directions. You're not going anywhere. All you're doing is creating mass confusion, pain, suffering. You know, you're wearing each other out, but you're not doing any good. If you can row in the same direction, it's going to be much better, much quicker, and you're going to make a lot more headway. So find ways to support each other, encourage each other, work together. Look for a common solution that is beneficial to both sides. And I think when a man is making decisions, you know, he wants to make you happy, but in many cases, he feels controlled.
Mm.
And so if he feels like he's being pressured or controlled into his decision, he will often decide negative to what you desire, because he wants to see if you're going to be happy with his decision and support his decision, whether you agree with it or not. He wants to see if you actually respect him.
Okay, I'm getting ready to go. I'm getting ready to go and hit another area.
Oh no,
It
here we
might be
go.
controversial. So look, I'm sitting up in my seat because I'm ready to go. So what if it's her own money? What if she's not asking him for any money? And
Mhm.
it's her own money being spent on this endeavor, on this hobby, if you will, or on this business. Then what?
So there's a couple ways you could look at that. He should support her if she spent her own money. I totally get where you're coming from. However, in many cases, he will
Mhm.
feel like there hasn't been an equal share of the responsibility or the funds to maybe keep the house payment up, the car payments, you know, groceries on the table, whatever. If he feels like the sole supporter and you're simply banking your money to do what you want, now he's going to feel like
Mm.
you're trying to stick him with the bills, and there may be some resentment.
Okay,
So
that's a
keep
good
that in
point.
mind as well. You know, not always, but I have seen that case happen as well, where guys will often feel resentful, like, well, see, you weren't paying your fair share. That's why you have money to spend on doing your own gig.
Ah, okay.
So now they feel like you were, in essence, using them. You weren't fully respecting them. It wasn't a joint effort to support the home, the family, the car payments, etc.
Got it. That's powerful. That
So
that
one of the
makes a
things
lot of
I would
sense.
recommend, if you have a two-income home, which we're a single income, and my wife, you know, helps me on jobs if I have painting and whatever I'm doing, you know, she'll often show up and help. But on the flip side, you know, I don't make her work unless she wants to. She gets to stay at home. But when you have a two income family, you know, a double-sided income, both spouses are working, look at how much you have total, what you have for a household budget. If there's additional funds above what you need for your household budget for the month, for example, let's say you need, just as an example, $5,000 to run your house, but you're making 10 grand a month between the two of you, then what you may want to do is take an equal percentage of your incomes, no matter who has the higher income. If it's 50% of your total household income could be saved, then each of you put 50% of your income, and that's now going to equal the amount for your family budget. The other 50%, each spouse could now, quote, pocket or store in order to use for their own venture. Whether he buys a boat, whether she now goes on her own, you know, entrepreneurial journey, whatever it might be, you can have, you know, different amounts, but sticking with a similar percentage that works for both parties. You know, it might be a 60-40, where he might go, no, I want to have 60% because I'm making way more money than you. That's fine. Let him carry the 60%. 40% of your income goes to support the family budget, and 60% would now be your money as your own discretionary fund, so to speak.
Wonderful, wonderful,
Does
wonderful
that make
answer.
sense? That way, and
Total
it's all about
sense.
communication. If you're not in communication, money is often one of the biggest struggles in a relationship, because neither one understands the other. They don't trust each other in the way they use their money. They don't know where it's going or what it's being spent on or why it's not there or whatever. And so therefore it creates distrust.
Yeah.
But communication, again, and to me, it doesn't matter what the relationship, whether it's a professional business relationship, friends and family relationship, or even a romantic relationship with your spouse, they're all hinged upon communication. And the level of your communication dictates the level of that relationship.
I love it. I love it. Brian, how can the audience get in touch with what you're doing and who you are, where you're going?
So there's a number of ways they can reach out to us. Obviously, they can reach both you and I directly on the OWL app, which is on my shirt. It's 2 W's, 2 L's. But it's a really cool app where you can call us directly. If we're not there at the moment, when you get there and want to talk to us, you can actually ring what I call our digital doorbell. And that sends us a notification and or a text message to let us know that you're there and want to talk to us. I always tell people I will come on as soon as I'm available so that we can have a conversation. And whenever I do come on, if they have rung my doorbell, it will now notify them that I'm available. So that's also a huge key. I think it's important for people to understand. Now, they can also go to any of my number of websites. I have a number of different websites. If they're looking for relationship help, they could go to forever-changed.me. So it's foreverchanged.me, but it has a hyphen between forever and changed. And then they can go to nextstepmindset.com, as you mentioned. They can also go to brianstrubhar.com if that's easier. You can see my name here on the screen. brianstrubhar.com also has links to my other sites.
Wonderful. I want to thank you so much for spending your day with us, your time with us. It has been so super insightful. I know it's going to bless a lot of people. I know it blessed myself, and I look forward to seeing you all next week on Lifestyle Mastery. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Lifestyle Mastery with Dr. Sheila Smith. We hope that the insights, tips, and tools shared in this episode have inspired and empowered you to take control of your personal and professional life. Remember, personal development and entrepreneurship are a journey, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Keep applying the strategies and techniques you've learned, and never stop striving for your dreams. We'd love to hear from you. Please share your feedback and success stories on our website or social media platforms. And don't forget to subscribe to Lifestyle Mastery for even more expert insights and inspiration. Thanks again for being a part of our community. We look forward to continuing this journey of growth and success with you. And we'll see you again on our next episode.